Welcome back to Soul Talk with Dr. Stephanie and Jessica. This is a space where we have honest conversations that most of us were never taught to have about healing, alignment, and the quiet wisdom that lives within all of us. I am Dr. Stephanie Johnson. I'm a medical intuitive, a mind body coach, doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and the creator of the Soul Wise Method. I'm here with my co host, Jessica Hinder, who is an entrepreneur, Reiki master, healer, and each week we sit here with the stories, beliefs, and patterns shaping our lives. This is a place where you can reconnect with your truth and live from a place of deep clarity, courage, and soul. In our last conversation, we started to notice how pain can show up in our body in different ways, and what are the messages that the pain in our body are trying to tell us. From here, we are going to talk today about, we're going to move forward from what that physical sensation feels like in the body to more of the emotional and spirit level of what we call the invisible and the invisible diagnosis, symptoms, imbalances that show up in our body. So today, we'll get started with that.
Yeah, welcome. Hi, Stephanie. You are looking gorgeous as always. Yes, I do feel that this is a very important topic. There are, in general, with chronic pain, we can also kind of dovetail that into, I guess we could pair chronic pain with things like autoimmune disease, right? These big question marks that exist that we're not clear on. And honestly, a lot of the medical industry is not clear on, right? There's new stuff that's popping up all the time, or new symptoms that the doctors have not heard of before, or I should say, have never linked the two, right? And so this is really relevant. Like, this is breaking news stuff, even though you may be an expert already. And if you are, great, awesome. I'd love to hear from you. Let's chat.
Right. Well, and I think the biggest piece that we see, like last week, we really talked about more of the physical sensations, like, oh, I have a headache, I have knee pain, hip pain, things that they can be obvious to somebody like looking at you. But the biggest piece that I see are the autoimmune conditions that are invisible to other people. They don't notice them. Diabetes is one. Like, unless you're taking an insulin shot, most people aren't out in public taking their insulin shot, right? They might have their insulin patch, on or somewhere in their body that someone might notice that they're monitoring it. But there's so many other autoimmune issues. You have the various allergies, celiac disease, lactose intolerance. You have a whole slew of thyroid issues and different pieces, fibromyalgia, lupus, all of these. Lyme disease is another one that also shows up that can be more of an autoimmune response. And when you look at them, one of the responses I often see with folks, people don't understand the impact that it can make on you, on your mental level, your spiritual, your emotional, and your just all of that. Like, they don't see it. And I know you and I, one of the reasons that we really connected, and I think pretty quickly, is that we have a common symptom, and that we both have this histamine response to foods that make it intolerable for us to be able to digest a lot of foods without a severe response. And so I know one time we were jokingly, you had sent me a text and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really struggling today. And we were going back and forth. And I jokingly said, if someone was reading our test, they would think that we had some eating disorder. And in a way, having this histamine response is an eating disorder, but not in your typical way of thinking about bulimia or anorexia, because there's so many things that you can't eat that you're trying to figure out. How do you eat? How do you cope in the world? And it was something that we bonded over pretty quickly. And just having somebody understand and be heard and listened to in that moment was like, wow, somebody gets the struggle I'm going to, and there's no judgment. And when I look at other autoimmune conditions, I often see people like, if it's not visible, then does it even exist?
Yeah, I mean, and that's Let's take a moment for that. That it does it even exist, right? This is a heavy sentence in this context because most of us, if it's something that you do also struggle with, the way us ladies do, it is this, does it even exist? Hits me, makes me feel a little, I don't know, goosebumpy, but also just like deep sadness because I know that feeling viscerally. To have been told that I'm too sensitive, to be told, all of my the personal physical symptoms, pains, quote unquote, feeling crazy, brain fog, all this stuff, this that a human can experience in this life, it doesn't necessarily follow what one would consider a protocol, right? It's everywhere. It's at different times. And also, as women, let us also include our monthly cycle, which we are all grateful for. It's very important for us. But the hormones that women go through, I mean, when we go through our hormone cycle, it takes a month. And one could even say, use the term to be mansplained what's wrong with me by either a professional or I don't even know, a partner or a parent. All of these things it isn't on purpose, right? They're not doing it to try and cause harm to us, but it causes so much invisible, it adds to our mental load. It adds to the invisible emotional load that we carry. Because I, for one, am a person that when somebody says, yeah, that's not necessarily possible, or that's probably not connected, or whatever the case, makes me then, okay, process that and say, well, then what the heck? Am I just like this crazy, like, I don't know, like sensitive little flower that the smallest thing is just going to make me crumble? Why am I so sensitive then? And then I'll go in my own head, in my own mental pathways that are familiar to me. And it ends up what has always ended up for me when somebody has not I was not seen, heard, or understood, right? Those three are so paramount to somebody that is going through some invisible, one could even say, condition or, experience, challenge, struggle, all the things is that, if we're not being heard, seen, or understood, at least I do take, I take people I take what people say to heart in the sense that I believe when they're saying the things they're saying it truthfully and they're saying it with the best intention. So if they're saying that and they seem to be knowledgeable about the subject, then I need to now backtrack everything that I was connecting. And it's like you just wipe the drawing, let's go back to the drawing board. And that itself creates so much invisible load that all of a sudden you're flat out exhausted before you even have to start making dinner for the family.
Well, and I think that's the biggest piece is that when you look at the statistics of autoimmune conditions, it more heavily leans towards the female, right? Like the bulk of autoimmune issues are female related. Now, as a result of that, that means that research, study, and follow up on that hasn't happened. And so often we are dismissed for our whatever symptom we bring up. Oh, it's nothing. Now, a man brings up the same system. Oh, let's fix it right away. And they get at this immediate care. And time again, the research and the data supports that. It's not a made up thing that we're making up as women. And yet, when you go and you meet with a provider, then they will say, I'm the expert, just listen to me. And it's like, okay, but I'm telling you what my symptoms are, but now you're ignoring me. And it takes many years for women to be able to get the support and help they need. So often we're out here just flapping our wings, just trying one thing and another. Let's throw that up on the board. Did that spaghetti stick? Did that one stick? Like, what's going to stick? And it's an ongoing struggle, and then attempting to explain to your loved ones what's going on when you don't have a diagnosis. And then my thing is, why do we have to have a diagnosis? These are my symptoms. This is what I'm observing. Why do we have to label it as something all the time? Right. And I guess that's just how our linear 3D world works at this moment. And God willing, as we step into this bigger consciousness that I'm so hopeful for in 5D, that these labels will shift and these conditions will go away. But that's not where we are. And so now we're trying to live in this human body, have this human existence, understand what is this human body doing? How do we live in this container? How do we be the most expressive and the most authentic person we can be? But yet I'm noticing the pain. And I think about my husband for eating. I every day is it literally could be a full-time job for me figuring out what I'm supposed to eat every day. And my husband once told me this, and I know that he was coming from the most loving, helpful place that he humanly possibly could. And I was talking about how hard it was to figure out what to eat and not to eat. And he said, "Well, honey, if it's any easier, just whatever you make for yourself, just make for you know myself and our son." And I was just like, oh, you didn't understand, you didn't hear. Like, that actually creates more mental load on me because I'm already struggling to figure out how to get the right nutrients for me. I know what the right nutrients is for you, but now I have to make two meals. And yeah, I could make the same meal for all of us, but that actually takes so much more brain power for me to do. And I think that's like it's the hidden weight that we experience as we go through this. And what does that do to us on the mental level, right? And the emotional level. And as you talked about that being seen, heard, and understood, those are so important. And when we're not understood, like for me, I just want to shut down. I don't want to keep talking about it. It's just like I give up, right? And I don't want this to be an episode like, whoa, this is like Debbie Downer, but it is to bring light and shed light that you're not alone as you're going through this, and that we're going to have ups and downs. Like some days are great days, other days are not great days. And on those not so great days, it's so important to have a lifeline and to reach out to somebody that you can talk to so you don't stay in the downward spiral. Which reminds me of this patient that actually came into my office earlier today. 5 years ago, she was a shut in for about 3 years. And it's only been in the past year and a half or so that she's really started to come out again. And one of the things she talked about was all these autoimmune things that came up for her. And it just got so overwhelming. No one could give her answers. She didn't feel like anyone was listening. She felt so isolated. And as she got deeper into that downward spiral, she stopped reaching out. She stopped throwing out the lifelines. And so that time just it just increased until she became a shut in and wasn't going out at all. She'd have her groceries come in, she didn't have any visitors. And over time, thankfully, she did reach out and I started working with her, and we slowly got her to be not just come to her acupuncture appointment, but to go do other things. And now today she said that she is going to buy tickets to go to New York City, which I'm like, whoa, that's a big for 5 days, which is huge for her, but this is not something she would have done. But when we talk about that autoimmune response and how it can just tap us down from living our lives fully or fully expressing ourselves and just isolating because we don't feel like we have the support. So find two people, at least two people, because when one person isn't available, you need a backup, right? And if they're not available, then find a support group for whatever, as I say, diagnosis, condition, symptom you have, and just talk it through online with someone because that can be equally as meaningful and equally as helpful if you can find other people who have gone through the same experience and can give you, like, how did they come out of it? How did they move forward and find a quality of life that they could find that joy and happiness? Because I believe as human beings, like, that's what we're here for. We're here to to laugh and to dance and to celebrate and have joy and not to be in pain all the time.
That's those are all incredibly important points. It's especially with the support. Now, I am very grateful to have found the partner that I'll be spending the rest of my life with. Believe I am very grateful. I know it is not easy out there, ladies. And, to bring around that supportive aspect. It's interesting because having married a person who is not American has brought a different perspective to, in general, health, stress, diet, nutrition, right? It's a different culture, it's a different outlook. And it wasn't really until he had very random questions for me that I was like, well, I don't know. That's because, and specifically, I'll give you a small example. And this was when we first met. We were just dating, right? So it was the fun time. And I had taken some medicine from home to the country I was living in. And so he was just curious. He's looking at all these bottles, Americans. Okay, we got all the bottles. All the things. And it happened to be something like a Prilosec, right? It wasn't prescription, but it was like on the stronger end. It wasn't Tums. Okay. I had already graduated from Tums. So anyway, so I'm taking this because obviously I'm going to travel. I'm in a different country. I don't know what their food's going to do. Like if it's going to hurt, I always had acid reflux all the time. And so I take this thing every day. And I was like, if I take it in the morning, the whole entire day is fine. Like I'm good. So I'm just going to keep taking this medicine. And this one specifically, and it's been so long, I honestly cannot even tell you what it was called. I know that you could buy it in the drugstore. It wasn't prescription though. And he looks at it and he's like, how long have you been taking this? And I was like, what are you taking? Oh, I don't know. Maybe like a year. I'm not sure. Right. Like, cause it was helping. So, and he goes, did you ever read the back of this bottle though? And I was like, wait, what? I mean, yeah, obviously dosage, right? You got to know what you're taking. He goes, you're only supposed to take this for 2 weeks and then stop. Right. And I was like, what have I done? Oh my God, all the things. And this is just me. And now, by the way, this is me personally. I am not lumping Americans into this situation. Okay. My lack of wanting to know had led me to that. But it really was the beginning of this journey of like, do you pay attention to what you put in your mouth? Right? Like what medicine you're taking for what symptom. And now look at the symptom. And he had this very holistic, natural way of looking at stuff. And so he started me on this curiosity path of health, nutrition, what food does to your body if it's not good for you, right? And so I have to thank him for that. On the other side of that, now, years later of marriage, what has turned into, there have been times in our marriage where that was a huge issue because he was basically saying, I'm dramatic, like not this stuff is not that difficult, right? And for a while, I believed him because, of course. And then again, with the mental load, adding on and being like, am I crazy? I must be crazy. I don't know. I'm crazy, right? It was this whole thing of recognizing, no, what is wrong is that you have already come to your conclusion. And we can put this on to every person, including medical people, because of course, a medical professional, if they've seen this exact symptom over and over and over, what does that tell you, right? We understand that. I have complete compassion for it and I get it. But when you are sitting there being like, this is my intuition of the cause, right? And they completely disregard you. I know we talked about it in our very first episode. It's like this deadening. It's like this weight that pulls you down to the deepest part of the ocean where you just think you're going insane. And is that helpful for your incredible mental load that you're already carrying? Not to mention your life force energy, your chi, right? Your prana, all of that is gone because you're just like depleted year after year after year. And then all of a sudden, here we are, you and I, waking up
Yeah.
and saying, there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way. So, yes, we are here. We
And I
see
think one of
you.
the most frustrating pieces is that what you said, which was so beautiful, like your husband years ago got you started on this journey, right? Of like eating healthy and being there. So you've been conscious for many years.
Yeah.
And my journey started early on in my 20s as well,
Mm.
and very conscious about health and eating and observing my family members who went through various autoimmune issues and seeing them and seeing things didn't turn out so great that I knew I wanted a different path. So I started early, really being mindful of what I put in my body, what medicine, trying to use food as medicine, trying to make sure I'm not taking a whole bunch of medications to mask the symptoms, right? And also asking into it. And with that said, one of the biggest frustrations I have is I see so many people that take crap care of themselves. They abuse their bodies and they go on and they seem to live fine lives. And here I am over here doing everything I know to be the healthiest I can. And then I have all these symptoms. And I want to say, WTF, what gives with that? Like, I'm conscious about what I'm doing. Why are these scenarios like that? Is it because I'm not enjoying my life and they are and they just don't give a crap, or WTF, like about like they're like whatever happens happens. And I think there's some truth in that perhaps. Maybe
Mhm.
on the flip side, like I'm so focused on making sure everything's good and healthy and all of that, maybe it's too controlling, right? So it goes back to though, when you talked about like symptoms, these autoimmune things that show up, they show up subtly at first, and so it's so important when they start to show up subtly. I mean, so many, we just discount them, right? We just discount them. So I'll give you an example. I have I'm diagnosed with a condition called, I'm going to mess it up. I call it EOE because it's hard to pronounce. Okay. Esophageal uveitis. Oh, I can't even say it right. So don't come in the comments saying, "Hey, this is how you say it." Anyway, it's EOE. Okay. For short. It affects the esophagus. It's a histamine response in the esophagus. Anyway, so I have eliminated a whole bunch of stuff. And then what ended up happening was that in January of this year, I started noticing my doctor had me because one of the protocols for EOE is to take an anti-acid medicine with a steroid inhaler together, and you swallow the steroid inhaler. And it's supposed to coat your throat to help reduce the swelling. And then the antacid is to help with just the healing as well. Okay. It's not necessarily for acid reflux necessarily. Well, I started that like a year ago as part of the protocol. And then and I stopped it because I got thrush. Okay. But in January of this year, I noticed that I started having more acid reflux, which isn't something that's common for me. But I started noticing got more and more frequent. I was having more episodes. But I was like, oh, my throat kind of hurts. Oh, my throat's getting a little sore. So I recently had a test and it shows that I have ulcers all in my throat. And I'm like, WTF? Like what's going on? Like I'm doing everything right. I've eliminated everything. Okay. But I noticed the symptoms back in January. Did I go reach out to my doctor then? No. Could it have been probably a better diagnosis if I'd reached out and actually done it? Probably yes. Okay. But now we're in a
Okay.
different healing. We're going to heal it. It's going to be okay. It's fine. It is what it is. However, this is what I find fascinating. So I got diagnosed with this new diagnosis back in January of last year. And starting around that time, I started getting these intuition and all these hits that I really needed to be speaking up more. I needed to be using my voice more. I needed to be writing. I needed to be more visible, not just visible in my practice, but visible online. I needed to be talking more. And I'm like, no, 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 I don't like, oh, I just don't, oh, I don't know if I do it. But the other thing, but my spirit guides, and we'll do a whole series on spirit
Yeah.
guides and other blessings because we love that stuff. But my spirit guides and my guide team, kept coming to me incessantly, like you got to be more visible, you got to be more visible, and I kept fighting it. I was fighting it and fighting it, and so I was thinking, okay, I have this showing up now, and I've really been resisting putting myself out there. But now I don't like I feel like I have a choice, but I don't have a choice. And that's why I've started this podcast with my lovely friend Jessica to see, like, by putting myself out there and talking about these things that are personal to me and sharing it, is that going to help heal what's going on here? Because the esophagus, it's our voice, it's our throat. Where do you stuff down what you don't say? And I'm notorious. I don't like to make waves. I don't like to upset people. I don't like confrontation. I like to keep the peace. It's a childhood response, no conflict, keep it. And so a lot of times when I'm in the presence of other people, I will change my wording if I notice it creates a reaction in someone. And so I'll reframe it so it's softer landing. So then that anger and attack doesn't come back. But what's happened is now I have this disease in my throat, right?
Mhm.
That creates a histamine response that says, hey, I'm inflamed because I'm not speaking my truth. So I think that's part of my lesson through all of this and having this autoimmune condition. So I want to encourage you to, like, it takes, I want to say, it takes you, what's the right way to say this? You have to really step back and get a bird's eye view and stand in neutrality to look at your condition, your symptoms, to understand what is the bigger lesson that it's trying to have you embrace. And I feel that the reason so many women have autoimmune conditions is because the patriarchal society, and I am going to throw them under the bus, they
Go
have
for it.
told us that our thoughts, what we speak, what we say is not valuable, and that we're supposedly not adaptable. We're not flexible. And yet we're constantly reading the situation, we're constantly readjusting. And in that readjusting, we are not allowing ourselves to be authentic within our being because we're trying to read the room all the time, right? We're trying to be appeasing to the status quo. But that is a consequence. And I think that's a consequence of why we have so many more autoimmune conditions is, and especially as they relate to women, because we're constantly tapping it all down. And so I believe that we are in a state, thankfully, to bring us back up, is that we are entering into the state of a higher consciousness where we now know we can't just have a patriarchal society. We can't just have a matriarchal society, which we already had thousands of years ago. That didn't work out well either, just like the patriarchy isn't working out. Now we're at this state of being that we're bringing it together, we're merging it. And I do see that as we merge, that we're going to have less of these autoimmune issues because we as women, we're going to get to be able to stand level on the same level playing field as our male counterparts. So anyway, that was kind of a tangent and went on a little bit
No,
rambling.
I think it was a good story. I think I mean, I know that that our stories are, yes, of course, unique. We're all unique snowflakes, but it's also not unique. I mean, our struggles, like the actual things might be slightly different, but overall, the feeling of being pushed down, having, in your case, I mean, I want to just take a moment also to just say, like, I'm sending so much understanding. Like, I hear you and I see you. It can't be. It's one of the most comforting thing that, in general, humans, but specifically women, can be told because it really does feel. We have not, as we talked about in previous episodes, not just us, but it's the society, the stories surrounding women in society. You have the lack of motivation to study women's health issues, which is changing. But all of these things are changing, right? And then thirdly, you have our ancestral weight that we're carrying, right? I mean, that's something that came also. And not only that, but it came even stronger back then. Really, really, really strong. So where we stand today is essentially sharing that life is amazing, life is fantastic, life is also very hard sometimes. It's like, we can't do it all. And with you at the as we were speaking, emotion or spiritually, and the bird's eye view is maybe to say it in a way of absolutely 100% And if you could have, I mean, I like a good graph. I think everybody likes a good graph. You like on your scrolls. Oh, let me see the difference. It's like if you could have bought like a graph, it'd be like, what is this current life? Where is maybe even it's like scale, like what is weighing the most on you in the sense of if you look at it from a birth, if you zoom out, if you look at your body, your current reality as through first the physical lens, which is probably what most people are really hyper focused on anyway, right? That's the easiest thing. It's what we can all see and feel. The second bucket or circle or whatever graph you're going to build would be emotional. How are you, operating through your day? What's the first thought that pops in your head in the morning? Is it positive? Is it negative? Again, no judgment. It's just noticing what's happening. And then third is with the life force energy, with your spirit, we all have that most authentic self within us. If you are presenting as your most authentic self, can I get a high five? Can I get a hallelujah? That is amazing. Keep it up. Even if people don't like you, the reality is that you are being as true as you can to who you are and your soul, right? So spiritually would be then the third bucket, circle, bar, whatever. So if you could just have three of them, physically, emotionally, spiritually, to have a look at and to see. Because the whole point of us having this chat today, I feel, is that we are hoping to bring awareness to these subtle messages, to these subtle experiences with loving kindness towards yourself, right? If you can notice the things, because I come from a place personally, inner dialogue wise, of being a control freak, of being a fixer, of being, over talking myself out of things or talking myself into things that I feel resistance against. And so I was really mean to myself. Past me was pretty mean. And there was a lot of work that I have been doing. And anytime I feel like I'm going to explode, whether that's because I don't feel supported by my partner, supported, heard, seen, understood by my partner, whether it's the kids, whether it's personal, because I'm like, why am I not getting this? Why am I still going through this? Right? That is itself its own frustration. The word that now flashes in neon lights across my third eye or across my forehead is legit compassion. Okay? Be kind. Choose kindness. Whatever's happening inside here, absolutely fine, right? I'm not here to judge myself. What I am here to do is say, I see you. I see you're really frustrated. Let's try and be kind to ourselves right now, because that's going to be so much more beneficial. Even if we get nothing changes and there's no improvement, there is a very subtle shift. And some people, it's a massive shift because they've never given themselves kindness or compassion. They're easy to give it out. I gave it out all over the place. I rained that down. So much understanding for everyone. But for myself, God, no. Like, I'm sorry. Who do you think you are? Miss Perfectionist. Everything needs to be perfect.
Yeah.
So kindness, compassion, self-love. Know that is not fixed overnight, especially if you're going through something like an autoimmune situation where I was saying earlier, it's like a puzzle. It's this big, I don't know, maybe it's 100-piece puzzle. Maybe it's a 5,000-piece puzzle. We don't know. Just like we don't know what's happening tomorrow overall or what's going to happen in the next hour. But what we can do is we can just stay kind and compassionate, breathe, connect with our breath I'm here looking at my puzzle. That's why my eyes are down. I'm literally looking at the puzzle, breathing, grounding. Okay, this really sucks today, right? And I will say that out loud. I hate this. Okay, I will say it out loud because saying it out loud releases it, right? And that's all of these things that we're not swallowing anymore. We're choosing not to swallow anymore. Like I will say sometimes, like, Here's the weirdest thing today. It was so random. I went to go get myself a coffee and I had previously asked my partner to turn on the coffee machine before he goes to work. He's like, okay, no problem. So my head's like, oh, it's done. I'm going to have my beautiful cup of coffee, something that makes me happy. I go in and I touch the machine and it's freezing cold. And I just lost it. Stephanie, oh my God. I was like, who is this person right now? My
What's
daughter's over there
wrong?
like, what? What happened? I was like, "Run!" Like it was just a very simple thing where now I can rationalize, yeah, he woke up, he was busy, he had stuff to do, he did not think about that coffee, and that's okay. But I had to come back and say, I'm really sorry, honey. My daughter, obviously, because I'm shouting, that's not towards you. I'm so sorry. And I don't even know. It's not even towards your daddy. I don't know. I'm just, I wanted coffee. And then because instead of being like, you just wait till he gets home. I swear to God, I'm writing this down. I'm going to write it down. It says I'm going on my resentment list. I just let it all out. And I'm so much better now. So, just as a very current example, this is how we can begin to speak it out, right? To speak out our feelings, to just be authentically ourselves as much as we can in each present moment.
Well, and a couple things that you brought up, and as we begin to wrap up, this
Mhm.
session, we one of the things that you talked about is the resistance in your body. So, a
Yeah.
couple tips. So, to sort of move on, we're going to talk about a couple tips and a couple lessons. Okay.
Yes.
So, the one is resistance. One of the things that I say that we have been taught by society is to discount our body as the barometer and what is right and wrong. And you said, there are many things I do that I feel resistance to.
Mhm.
When we notice a resistance, that is a moment to pause. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where we go back to when we talked about in our first episode. Do you choose to do it? Is this should or could? If you have a resistance, your body is telling you something. Don't do it. It's not in alignment with your soul or your spirit. And sometimes like, yes, but I'm supposed to do blah 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 blah. If it's in resistance and you're noticing the resistance, and I okay, I'm going to make the assumption, okay, that we all have this moment where we feel the resistance and we push through it. No, I got to do it. And you push through it. We got to stop at the resistance part and acknowledge that. Do we want to do it? No, then don't do it. If your body says no, we've got to learn to begin to trust that. And that's where our intuition and our inner knowing then begins to strengthen and then begins to guide us in a much better way when we listen to the resistance. Okay. The
And
other
just one
yes.
real quick about resistance, because I just heard this again. I feel like it's all the synchronicities, but like I just heard this morning and I was like, gosh, it's sometimes it's the way somebody says it that we don't take into account how much energy we waste in resistance mode. It's such a big energy waste. We spend all the time rather than either, as you said, address it right then and there. I feel this resistance. Let me take a breath, slow down. Secondly, how am I going to do this? I feel frustrated. I don't want to do this. Da, 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 da. Okay, list all those out loud to yourself in a room, outside, doesn't matter. But yes, that releases that energy or gives it back to you so you can use it more productively for yourself.
Yeah,
Continue, please.
absolutely. But I think so
Mhm.
much of us, so many people are disconnected from that,
Yeah.
is what I observe.
Mhm.
And they're
Mhm.
also told not to trust that
Yeah.
and I'm going to call it resistance
Yeah.
that's in the body or that inner knowing that pops up. Oh, you should do it or not. But it's the inner voice, our higher self, our soul that's speaking to us from that authentic place. And yet, if we don't begin to pay attention to it, we're going to constantly override it. So that's sort of the first stop. And I think, maybe later on we'll do a deeper podcast into that. Like, how do you actually do that and what does it look like? But that's a beginning. Just notice where you have resistance and stop for a moment and just really like look into it. And then the other one was one of the things that I do each morning is this. When I set up, both my husband and I do this each morning. We also do this as a practice with our son. There's actually two things that we do. One, immediately as we wake up, what is the mood I want to set for today for myself before I've even decided that I'm on the wrong side of the bed? Okay. And sometimes I wake up, I'm like, oh, I don't want to get up. But I'm like, okay, today my word is peaceful. I'm going to have a peaceful day. Today, my word is productive. I'm going to have a productive day. Today, my word is enthusiasm. Today, my word is happy. Whatever
Mm.
that word is, but it's something that's uplifting. It's not like depressed, angry, right? Okay. Because
That
that's
comes so naturally. We
right,
don't need
right?
to.
That's what so many of
Mm.
us naturally kind of default into that. But if you
Yeah.
set your mood as like, oh, I said I was going to be happy today. So when your husband didn't turn on the coffee pot, which there's a couple of things there, like he told you were going to do it and you were looking forward to it being taken care of. It's one less
Mhm.
thing off of your mental load, right?
Yeah.
That's why you got set off. But on the other hand, oh, he didn't do it. Oh, my mood today was I chose happy. I
Mm.
chose happy. Okay, now I can look through why is this triggering me? Oh, it's because I just didn't want that extra load and I just wanted it to be ready. It's the real honest truth, right? But what I
Yeah.
find is that when you set the mood for the day like that, then when you get stuck, then you're like, wait, my mood for the day is this. And you carry that throughout. It has a really
Mhm.
positive effect on you. The other piece that we also do for every meal is we sit down breakfast and dinner because typically we don't have lunch together unless it's the weekend. But breakfast and dinner we have together as a family, and that is something that's very important to us to have that connection, right? And we always hold hands, and we don't say grace, but we say, "What am I grateful for?" right now.
Mhm.
And then we give one thing, sometimes two. What are we grateful for? And again, it's like, oh, well, I'm grateful for you helping me get my shoes on today, mommy, or whatever it might be. But it's like, oh, you noticed that I did whatever. And it really helps to lift the day up. So those are two things that I feel strongly about when we have various autoimmune issues or other just life hitting. It could be financial issues. It could be relationship issues, right? That when we set these intentional practices, it can help to lift us up so that we're in a better space. And then the third thing that I recommend consistently, spending time outside. So one of the things that I just read like a study, and I didn't need to read the study to know this, but they talked about like our ancestors. The reason that they didn't have all the illnesses and everything going on is because they weren't in artificial light, artificial AC, artificial heat. They were outside. They were connecting with the earth, with the electromagnetic,
Rubbers, we just
right?
have to
The
say,
rubber
rubber
shoes,
shoes.
right? And
Mm.
the other thing is they also, before they used to have houses that were like painted in lead, which actually was really good. They say it's bad for you, but from an energetic perspective, having your house painted in lead is actually better energetically for you than what they use today. So there's multiple things that are out there that you have to spend time outside in nature. Ideally, if you can do barefoot or not rubber shoes, more organic shoes, it's going to have a better effect. If you can't have that, just being outside alone is going to help your mental health on the regular and it's going to help heal you faster than a lot of other things. And I have to look up the study about the whole lead paint thing, but it's really
Yeah,
fascinating
question mark. Mhm.
to look at. There's been a couple studies I've seen where the incidences of autoimmune diseases began to skyrocket when they stopped using the lead paint, which I thought was interesting because lead paint also has toxic effects, like if you get chips of paint. So I'm like, what is this? There's a anyway, so I had to do more research on that, but it was something that like I came across in passing that just made me go, huh, I gotta explore that more and research it. So for everyone's like, oh, she said this, like we're researching that part, okay? Because I
Yeah,
gotta find some of the other studies.
we put a
Um,
dot, dot, dot at the end of that one,
yes,
okay?
right,
We please fact check us and we will
yes,
fact check ourselves.
right, exactly. So
Happy to.
anyway, those are some of the things that I think that are just lessons. Earlier, I talked about like sort of what I have learned about my throat stuff happening. Like it's for me to speak up, to be more authentic, to not shut my mouth. Like I'm always like, shut your mouth, shut your mouth. I'd like, no, open your mouth, speak, speak. Anything
That's
else you'd
just,
like to add before we
yeah,
announce?
I feel like those are pretty simple. I'll reiterate and then I'll add some supplemental stuff if anyone's curious. So we're going to tune in when we feel resistance towards something as simple as doing the laundry. This is me all the time. It never stops. Okay. I always have that resistance right there. So we're going to tune in and we're just going to get curious about the resistance. Then it's like choosing a positive thought in the morning, whether that is declaring your mood or be showing gratitude or whatever the case is. So we're going to choose the first thing. There's this guy. Okay. And then the third is to get outside. And this is so paramount. With the outside, I can't believe it's been recent that I just watched this for the first time. But if you haven't watched it, I can't recommend it enough. It's called The Grounding Movie, and you can actually find it on YouTube, right? I mean, these are actual scientific studies that are showing people with multiple sclerosis, like really, really heavy conditions, were healing, we're reducing inflammation in the body, the inflammation markers in the body. Like this is really true. We are not over here just spouting out, it just feels good and makes everything better. Like, no, literally, physically and physiologically, it is healing. So I wanted to reiterate, those are the points. Simple, very simple. I started before because when I started that with the positive thought in the morning, I was so out of it that I actually put on the alarm, like on your phone, you can write the number or you can write whatever. And I would put the positive thought there. So I'd pick it the night before. Anyway, so there's lots of different ways to do that. I would like to recommend 3 different. So the Grounding Movie, if you're curious, these are only if you're curious, you want to dig deeper. Another very influential book in my life is called The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate. It was excellent. And the third is The Body Keeps the Score by Van der Kolk. I can't remember his first name. But we'll post all the links in the show notes. So if there is anybody that's curious, I mean, it really helped me in my healing journey.
Yeah, and I recommend those books. And then the Grounding Movie is, I think, really incredible just to observe and to see as well. So
Mhm.
if something stirred in you today, stay with that. You
Mhm.
don't have to figure it all out right away. And just remember, one of my favorite things is you got to start somewhere to get anywhere. So start noticing because that's where the work actually begins. So
And
until
I
next
would
time.
say, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I love that. Start somewhere. Wait, start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere in order to get anywhere. So you got to take the first step.
And my mantra recently has been nothing changes if nothing changes, which I'm like, that's just like right on,
Right?
just online. We're
But it's
just,
like you got to start somewhere. Like if you don't change
Mhm.
something, nothing's going to change people.
Nothing's going to
So,
change.
and
Yep.
I think the other thing that's so important is, and I don't know if I've done this demonstration, but I often do this. So many people feel like in order to make a change, they got to go like this, right?
No.
Like it's got to be drastic. And one of the things I've learned is that it just has to tweak a little that way, oh, that way, just a little bit. It can be really tiny beginning steps. And because otherwise we get overwhelmed as humans, at least I do, when I
Well,
take such a drastic step. So start somewhere, make a
start
change,
small.
right?
Start small and consistency is key. That's it.
Yeah. So until
Anyway,
next time,
yes. Stay open
stay curious.
and listen to the wisdom within you.
So
Thank
this
you
is Soul
guys so
Talk.
much. Yes. Sorry. This is Soul Talk as well. Oh my
It's
gosh.
Soul
Can we
Talk,
get
and we're
that?
having a lot of fun, and we hope
Oh
you'll
my
join us
gosh. Let's do
again.
that again.
And make sure you click the subscribe button below,
Yeah.
and forward this on to your friends if you think that they would find value in it. And until next time, we love you.
Yes. Remember, sharing is caring. So, uh, and also we are human and we error. So just let it be. We're just going to let it go. Thank you. Until next week. Greetings. Blessings to all.
Namaste.